Welcome back to Exit 82.
In this segment, we're going to hear W.S. talk about his relationship with Johnny Cash, how they met. We're also going to hear the poem The Legend. We're going to hear Folsom Prison.
Thank you so much. Well, we were having so much fun in the 50s, but it seemed like we started downhill a little bit. It was the end of the 50s. Seemed like Sam Phillips had made all the money he wanted to make. We'd spent all of our money. Carl had spent all of his money on, well, he was thirsty a lot. I spent all of my money on cars and speedboats and black hair dye. We caused a black hair dye shortage in the mid-50s. I was driving around Jackson here in a big long Cadillac that I paid down on with some of the royalties from blue suede shoes. 3 payments behind. Didn't know how I was going to make the next payment. I met Joyce. She had a car paid for. Had a house paid for. Had a good job. And she finally talked me into marrying her. And she's with us here tonight.
Stand up, Joyce.
Stand up, Joyce, and take a bow.
Anybody stay with a musician that long?
Now,
For sure.
we just had our 55th anniversary. 55 years she's been playing. I decided I was going to retire. When we got married, I said, well, I've done all I will ever do in the music business. Played on one of the greatest records of all time, Blue Suede Shoes. Played on the $1 Million Quartet session. Been in a movie. Done all the big TV shows in New York, California. Figured it was all over for me, and I was going to retire and get a real job so I'd have a payday every week. And before I could retire and start to work, I got a call from Johnny Cash. We met each other. We'd met each other in 1955, and 55, 6, 7, 8. We worked around all over the country together. He didn't have a drummer, and he got a big engagement up in New York, and he called me to go with him for 2 weeks. And when he called first, I said, John, I can't go. Just got married, and I'm going to get me a real job. He said, well, we might make it a real job. So I went those 2 weeks. We played a week up in New York, come back down to Atlantic City and played a week. About the middle of the week in Atlantic City, he said, well, let's talk about some pay and talk about you playing with me. He said, I'd like to have you play with me occasionally. I said, John, I can't do that. I want a regular job. He said, when I mean occasionally, I just want you to play with me from now on, as long as I'm in the business, do every record, every show I do. I said, well, that sounds like a regular job. He said, it'd be as regular as I can make it. I called Joyce that night, told her that I was going to stay in the music business. And she didn't leave. She's still here with me. Now, there's so many things that happened with Johnny Cash for almost 40 years. If we had a couple of days and a 10 or 15 hour TV show, we could tell some of them. But what we did, a friend of ours here in Jackson, Pete Collins, wrote a thing called The Legend. And it kind of tells a little bit of the things that happened for a 40-year period there. So that's what we do to kind of talk about Johnny Cash before we get into doing some Johnny Cash songs. Or let's do The Legend. The man in black. He came down the road with a Bible in his hand and a guitar on his back. He sang about the old and beat down. He sang about Indians, prisoners, and the day the flood came to town. They say he's gone now, but he's still around. You'll know who I'm talking about when you hear this sound. He talked about the flag rising in the sun. He sang about the Lord when the day was done. He sang about Mom and Dad and how he built that Cadillac. He represented the poor. That was his reason for wearing black. They say he's gone now, but he's still around. You'll know who I'm talking about when you hear this sound. He loved his country. He always did for what he thought was right. He was one of the highwaymen coming through your radio. He's up there singing now, walking the streets of gold. We still miss him, even though we know he's gone. The sound must go on.
Well, I hear that train a-coming. It's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. Time keeps dragging on, and those people keep a moving on down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. I shot a man in Rio just to watch him die. When I hear the lonesome whistle, I hang my head and cry. Well, I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking long cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. And those people keep a moving, and that's what tortures me. If they free me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, you know I'd move it on a little farther down the
Red Art Studios produces creative music videos and films all types of live performances anywhere in the USA. Contact us at 731-554-1555 today.
For more great local music, go online and visit the Back Porch with Jay and Brandon.
More music on Exit 82 after this.